In 10 games in Premier League, we won 2. I know that. Imagine what is this for a fan of Manchester United. Imagine what is this for me. So we are getting a new coach that is losing more than the last coach. I have full knowledge of that. Like I said, I'm not going to change, no matter what. And I know we can succeed, but we need to survive this moment because I'm not naive. And I know that we need to survive now. So we are being the worst team, maybe, in history of Manchester United. I know that you want headlines, but I'm saying that because we have to acknowledge that and to change that. So here you go, your headlines.
And there are some headlines as well. He's not mincing his words there. He's hinting that this group of players could be the worst in Manchester United's history. Do you make of that?
I'd say maybe less talk and better performances would be better right now. I mean, it's tough really because everybody likes him because he's probably one of the best talkers I've ever heard as a man, especially as a foreign language. You know, as a Portuguese speaker, to come and speak English the way he does, I find remarkable. But nobody wants him to change. Just adjust. Just tweak it a little bit. You can see 2 and 3 goals every game. Everybody plays through you. Southampton came to Old Trafford and are one of the worst teams we've ever seen in Premier League history. 6 points from 60, and they popped it around like Barcelona. So it's not about, nobody wants him to not have success. Everybody wants him to. But right now, you got to keep the boat afloat, and you got to, you got to find a way to hang in there. You know, and the way they played against Southampton and today against Brighton, I don't think any of us before the game thought they were going to beat Brighton, which is ridiculous. You know, they should be able to beat Brighton, even if they got some of the issues that they have. But there's a lot of, I mean, again there, I mean, Baleba, he could probably start from Man United. Ball over the top, Matoma, that first touch is crazy good. Yeah. And it's a tap-in from Minte. And you think about Matoma and Minte, they're the types of players we used to see at Man United. Flying wingers, brilliant on the ball. I mean, this is, you know, Brighton, the keeper. He takes risks, you know, he tries to play out. But Steve, they had 1 shot on target in the game. Yeah. 1. And obviously Bruno scores a penalty, but they don't look like scoring. They concede 2 and 3 to men every game. Yeah, I know it's not just about the 3-4-3. You just got to be harder to beat.
It's not so much about the system. People obviously want to talk about the system and that, but I mean, if you're not willing to run and compete, you know, even here, you know, can you stop the cross? You don't. You know, you speak about the goalkeeper could have come there. Matoma at the back post scored goal from Brighton's point of view and that, but again, it's just so easy to play against. People not getting close to people, individual mistakes, you get punished at this level. And it seems to be every game. And I think sometimes if there was a case of, you know, you're at home in a case of like missing chances and you think, okay, at least we're creating chances, but if you don't even look like scoring one shot on target, it's not right.
If you were a current Manchester United player listening to your manager say that you might be part of the worst group of players in Manchester United's history, would that motivate you? Would it bother you?
To be fair to him, I don't think he meant them. I think he meant they're the kind of the most underperforming team they've seen.
You're part of that team then, in the dressing room?
Look, I think the thing people like about him is the fact that he's honest.
Is he too honest?
I think at the moment he's probably a little bit too honest, yeah. I think everybody respects it because Ten Hag kept coming out saying, oh, well, you know, we're doing well, and they weren't, and it annoyed everyone. Whereas I think now Amorim's coming and he's going, right, you know, yeah, you know, there's anxiety and there's all these things, fine. But actually, if the team needs to play better, because he's being open with the press and with everyone, and it's true, we can see it. But I think also he needs to also protect the group a little bit, because they're not performing better with him being as open as he is.
Well, actually performing worse than under Erik Ten Hag in terms of points.
Arguably, yeah.
Well, the points they are.
Yeah.
It's taken less points.
But I think Erik got kind of labelled with no identity. We don't know what they are. So obviously Amorim knew that coming in. So he said, well, this is how I play, 3-4-3. But actually to change a whole system in a season from a back 4 to a 3, and you can see it doesn't really suit the
with
boys
somebody
right now.
else's players. I mean, do you have a degree of sympathy in the fact that he has walked in and inherited these players? He's not signed one of these players to play his way.
1,000,000%, of course. I think everybody has. People had sympathy with Erik. People had sympathy with Ruben, but still.
Well, Erik had spent plenty of money, to be fair.
Yeah, but if you're 13th and you spend all that money, and I think he's had, what, 10 games? We would have expected him to win more than 2 or 3 of
3 wins from 11, and it is 11 points from 33.
And the City one, okay, it was a great finish, but could have drew or lost that.
But 11
easy.
points from 33.
Yeah, it's not good enough, whatever way you want to. And I think him coming in, everybody thought, right, we're excited, got a clear identity, he's positive, he plays the right way. But I'm not sure the personnel that he has, which isn't his, is suited to play in.
So what are you saying? He should use someone else's personnel to play another way that he wants to play?
Why don't we just find a way to get some results right now? We'll get you some of your players in the summer, get rid of a few, and then you can play that way maybe. This isn't about, look, I really like Ruben. I think he's going to do brilliantly. This isn't about him. This is about Manchester United getting results. It's not about a 3-4-3. It's none of that. It's about, can you find a way to get results? They're not getting results. So find something. Pep didn't win the Champions League, because he was a bit too open in the Champions League. What did he do? He went to a back four centre-backs, Pep. And what happened? He won the Champions League. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with adapting, Steve? I respect him for having an opinion on this 3-4-3. It's not working. Can we just find a solution so we can get to that space when we can get you your players where the wing-backs are the difference point? Because right now, if Southampton are playing through you and Brighton are playing through you, can we find something in between maybe in the short term?
What do you think?
I just feel like it's a tricky one because obviously they're conceding goals and they don't look like scoring. I don't think he's going to go against how he plays. I don't think he's going to change the system. He's not going to play 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 because, 3-4-3, that's his system. It's just, he's got to obviously try and find a way to first look like you're going to score and create. Of course, the players have to take responsibility as well. You need more quality. Apart from Ahmed, really, who else would you say that's really looks like doing anything? At times, you watch Ahmed play and you think, I'm sitting there thinking, you're too deep. I'd like you closer to the goal. Bruno Fernandes, but the game today, throughout the game, they didn't deserve to win the game. Didn't create enough. And without the ball, just not good enough, too easy to get through. The Southampton game was the same. And Southampton struggled this season. So he's going to have to try and change something.
And he's going to try somehow and get some sort of aura back at Old Trafford because that is 6 home defeats now. The worst in all of a season is 7. And perhaps the most damning of all, they've lost 6 of their opening 12 home league games. Do you know when the last time that happened? 1893.
1893?
Yes. 6 home defeats in their opening 12 games.
Yeah, you're right, and that's my only point. Steve. They need to find something. This ain't about this is my system.
But if he doesn't change the system, how does he find something?
It's not about the system. I don't talk about that.
What would you like to see him do in the short term to win some football matches?
He's got to settle on a group of players he thinks are going to get him results. He's had 11 games where he's pretty much chopped and changed everything. Every time. He's tried everyone. Right, you're in charge. Go pick the guys you think are going to be there for you. And I think at some point he's got to settle that. He keeps chopping and changing with Xerxes and Højlund because, goal scoring is the biggest issue at Manchester United right now. Who are the 2 midfield players, Steve? Do you know how hard it is to play midfield with just 2 guys in the Premier League? I don't know any other team that just plays with 2 in there. And basically, Kobe is a brilliant player, by the way. I'd be sad ever to see him leave. Ugarte's a good player, but the 2 of them in there, they're on their own. Southampton outplayed them. Brighton outplayed them. You need somebody else in there to help these guys. I don't care if you still play a 3, but somebody drop in and help defensively. So with the ball, play maybe forward quicker. We've seen United be at the best on the counter, and you got to defend. You got to be more compact together. There's too many spaces, and they're too easy to play against. One
thing he said at the end as well: players were out of position, and that will not happen again.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult, especially when a manager comes in and it's like a new system. And then not only that as well, you're playing out of position. I can imagine there's loads of information on a training pitch because it's difficult for a coach when you come in halfway through the season with a different system. It's so much information. You have to concentrate. You've got players playing out of position. We spoke about Garnacho before. He's a winger. If he plays as number 10, for that position, you look at Bruno Fernandes. Naturally, in that position, he's going to be effective because he takes the ball on a half turn and he creates things. But when you've got a player that's sort of like just direct and you want to get on it and run at people, Kobe Mainoo, he keeps saying it, he's playing in the 2. He maybe needs that someone next to him that he can sort of like link with, you know, that short support, so he can sort of like, then they can sort of like gain some control of the game.
But I don't think he means Jermaine, like, he must mean defensively out of position, because he can't mean offensively, because they didn't create anything.
No.
So I'm guessing he's thinking, first goal, Matoma gets in behind Mazraoui. He's not out of position, he's just ball watching. If anything, Euro's out of position. But he's doing what the manager wants. What's he doing? If somebody drops into midfield, João Pedro, the 10, I got to go with. So, and that's why Minte in the end has a tap in, because Euro's out of position. You know, Ugarte, he's not sure, he's on Welbeck. De Ligt steps out, and watch this, square ball, and Euro's late. He's late because he stepped into midfield, so that's out of position. But actually, if the manager's telling the centre-backs, when they get, I want you to jump out on them, I'm telling you what, with Minte and Matoma, they knew that. They waited high and wide, and when the ball went wide, one long ball, and they were in. So he can say they're out of position, but they might have been out of position because, you know, they're doing what the manager said, I want you to jump into midfield.
If that was happening all the time, where they just kept playing long, getting him... As a midfielder, if I'm a centre, you'd be saying to me, go and press. Because if there's no pressure on the ball, it's so easy for a defender just to clip it in those sort of channels.
Yeah, and
you play with Carlos Tevez.
Yeah, and because Xerxes was right there. You know, he doesn't...
But there's no pressure.
There's no pressure on the ball.
Pressing, no.
No. So it's fine to get in your shape. And look, they're in his shape, by the way. That's his 3-4-3. Look where Euro is. Look at Euro. Look where he's looking. He sees Minte. He's thinking, wait, I got João Pedro, but Minte, Dalo's got Minte and, you know, the right wing back. Look at that. So they're in that shape that he said to them. But like that first game, remember at Portman Road, he said, the boys are thinking too much about their positions.
I just feel like the body shape of all of the back line is wrong. The body shape, it looks like the number 9's pressing. I think the body shape's got to be different, completely different. Because if you're not going to press, not saying to drop off, because there's a thing where you say if there's no pressure on the ball, you should drop off. But if you are not going to press, then your body shape's got to be different. Especially when you're playing against players like Matoma that's going to run in behind.
But Jermaine, tell me from that team who's going to press. Kobe's a great player, he's not a presser. Yeah. Ugarte's a great player, can't press. Xerxes can't press. The only one that can press in that team is Ahmad.
But there has to be a trigger then. There has to be a trigger. So whether that's anything, if there's a ball being passed back to the goalkeeper, we go and press, there has to be a trigger. You have to work on a trigger, because if you ain't got players that are dynamic enough to go and press, then at some stage in training you work on triggers. Okay, then if the ball gets played back, then you go and press. Or if it's a bad touch, we go and press. But if not, we just stay in our shape.
So is this all training ground time that they need here for this message to become more clear and more organised?
But even more to my point, if you don't have the time on the training grounds because you're playing games every day, find just a temporary solution that that maybe the boys have a little bit more familiar with. Do you know what I mean? It's not... This formation is going to be his thing for sure, and he had an amazing success with it. But it probably needs a bit of time on the training ground and personnel-wise. You look at all the great teams, you know who's playing. Arsenal, Liverpool, you know who the whole team is. United change the team every week.
Which is him trying to find out about players as
Which
well.
I respect. But what I'm saying is, while you're trying to figure that out, maybe you find a little hybrid model of this, or maybe you defend a little bit deeper, or maybe you play a little bit more compact. But they look like they're in the shape that he wants them to be in. But still, people are not. You saw Euro there. He's thinking, is that mine? Or am I taking João Pedro? And that lets you know it does need reps on the training ground, but you don't have time for reps because you've got games every 3 days.
And we're on another point here. That was another back three that he's played today, left Martinez out. So he's trying different combinations. There's no partnerships. There's no consistency back there as well with the message he wants to get across. Yeah,
and I think everything's about partnerships, whether in defence, in midfield. Jermaine, probably, like, you'll have guys that you say, he was my favourite to play with, right?
Yeah, because it's relationships.
Yeah.
You know, when it sort of like builds over a period of time when you play together. But it's massive in football. You know, whether, I mean, it's the back line, you know, obviously, I know teams don't play with two centre forwards now, but the front three, it's all about relationships. And when it keeps chopping and changing, it's really difficult to get any...
You couldn't name United's team next week?
No.
Defence, midfield, or attack?
No.
Outside of Bruno and Ahmad will play. And then there's another 7 guys that are going to play with Onana. And I think if you look at, Liverpool, it's pretty much the same team every week. Arsenal, it's the same team every week. I think for Ruben's sake, he's got to settle on the guys he thinks, right, these guys are going to help me right now.
But are you concerned? Obviously, this window is very difficult to do business in, but when they get to the summer, he suddenly can't make 8 or 9 changes here, can he? It's virtually impossible to get that many players out of a club. So is he going to just focus on the crucial areas of recruitment to help the way he wants to play?
Aren't they all crucial, though? I mean...
But Where
I
are
would
you
be-
in terms of not ripping this team up, but going forward, what we saw today, for instance, what percentage of that team can take Manchester United forward, do you think?
I would be reluctant to buy players to suit a certain system. So if you're just going to buy players to suit this formation, I'd be reluctant because, you know, the landscape changes in a year or two real quick. They did that for Eric Ten Hag, spent 600 million on what? And now Ruben's got his players and they don't suit his formation. The club should have an identity on how they want to play, always, regardless of who the manager is. And the players that come in are going to suit any manager because he's going to go, I'll tell you what, I like him, I like him, I like him.
So what percentage of the current players do you think Ruben Amorim would want to keep and work with?
Only he could answer that. One thing he needs desperately is a striker.
Yeah.
He needs a striker ASAP. And he needs, if he's going to play a midfield too, which he is, he needs somebody that can run like the wind. And I don't see that in this team. The guy I can see doing that, his name's Edison. He plays at Atalanta, Brazilian international. He's a hell of a player. And he could get through some work in there. But if he's going to play like this, I don't... It's a striker and an athletic midfield player, for sure.
I just think it's too difficult, especially in the modern day game where a lot of teams overload centrally. Because before it was teams just play 4-4-2, you know, and you think now teams, you've got fullbacks playing inverted. So even when you play with a 3 sometimes you still get overloaded.
Yeah.
So when you play with a 2, mainly it's still a young player, it's so difficult. It's difficult. And I've always said that if you can control that position in the pitch, you've got a better chance of winning the game.
Is there an element he's learning about the Premier League and the intensity of it that perhaps, you know, obviously in Portugal isn't there?
Big time.
At times.
Big time. And he would have had that. I was at the first game against Ipswich Town, and he would have had that after the first game because they could have lost that game. And Ipswich just got promoted, but they played some nice football. And I think even if with his Portuguese coaches, he would have said, "Wow, this is going to be, you know, this is going to be hard." And Southampton came to Old Trafford and played. Brighton came and played. So there is more competition, and I think obviously in Portugal they dominated the ball more. He says it before every game. We got to keep the ball better. We got to keep the ball better, and they're struggling to because there's a lot of good teams in the Premier League right now. Man United's best attribute is we saw it against Liverpool and Arsenal and City. What?
Counter-attack.
Transition.
Yeah.
Stop trying to dominate the ball. You don't have the personnel for it. Play teams on the counter and try and find a way to keep it tight at the back.
But then when you do counter on transition, when you do counter and you get your opportunities, you need the quality at the top of the pitch.
That's why I need striker, Jay.
You need the quality at the top of the pitch because you can approach games and be like, okay, we're going to be solid and counter-attack. And then when we get the chances, we make the best of the chances. But if you ain't got the quality at the top of the pitch, you ain't going to win football matches. It's as simple as that.